Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of LOTUS Devotionals, where we ascend by way of our hearts. Before we get started, let me give you some of the ways that you can support the endeavors that I have going on. First, you can go to my link tree, which I will link below, where you can find the products and the services that I offer. You can also directly support via PayPal at lifestyle.larisablack.com. And if you are in need of a doula, which I have told you all that I was working on my certificate, which I have finally received, I also have my LLC. You can contact me at birthing@HooDouLaLove.com. So if you're looking for, again, any birthing services, if you're looking for any floral arrangements, if you're looking for any healing tools, anything of that nature, just go to my link tree and everything you need will be right there. I know that I have been a little, not necessarily silent, because if you follow me on social media, you will be able to see, or you would have seen, the things that I was doing over the past month. I just have been a little quiet on my YouTube channel because I haven't had time to create content. And that is because I was balancing the responsibilities that I had to go through last month. In addition to the responsibilities that I had to do, i.e. not finishing up my birthday certificate, but waiting for the certificate, getting my LLC, just starting other things and finishing other tasks. In addition to doing that, it was my birthday month. I think that I mentioned that at the beginning, but I can't quite remember. But I do know the day before my birthday, I released another tarot reading. So you can also go to Liology, which is my podcast, which is also in the link tree, to listen to the podcast that I created. But I did mention that, it was the day before my birthday, and this season, or in this 28th year of life, I am really asking for the things that I want, right? And so before that, I was in detox mode, you know what I'm saying? Like, really trying to open up my eyes, see clearly, think clearly, get rid of the fog. And I deterred a little bit in October because of all of the festivities, right? So though I was still in my, I won't even say that. I was having fun. So as my spirit led, so shall I do. And I've been feeling a shift back into the focusedness of my consecration, or my detox, if you will. But I just didn't quite know how to get out of that swing of everything that October had. So again, in addition to my birthday in October, it was homecoming season. So I talked about this on my podcast a couple days ago. I did a synchronicity episode on 11/11. I recorded this so many times, I don't even remember what I said on this one or the last one. So I'm going to just act like I didn't say that and say it again. This 11/11, I recorded a synchronicity reading on my podcast, so I'm making reference to that. But on the podcast, I was sharing how the first weekend of October was my birthday. The second weekend of October was Morris Brown homecoming. The third weekend of October was CAU's homecoming. The fourth week of October was Spellhouse homecoming. And then the last week of October, I went to Bulldogs versus Gators game. So, and then in between that, I was still, achieving my work tasks and doing things for school, etc., business, all of that. And so it's been a pretty busy month for me. And as I was just saying, I knew the time will come where I had to go back into myself to get other tasks done. It's about to be final season, and I need to get my homework done. So all that fun that I had stored up, or was having to store up for this moment, it's time to wean it on back. Oh, which is good. I'm happy I said that word. It's time to bring it in. And so here's where I would like to go into my episode. Now that I've gone over the updates, as far as what I've done last month, and the reminders as to ways that you can support me, let's get into this episode. So this episode will be called Storytime and ShadowWork. Basically the basis of this episode is I'm working on a series and I just need time to digest it more so that I can, I don't want to say regurgitate it because that sounds a little gross, but so that I can serve it in proportion because it's much, right? And so I have been praying to ask, how can I deliver that message in a way that I can deliver and not be confused and not confuse myself and not confuse you all, right? Because if I don't have a full clarity of what I'm trying to present, how can I expect you all to understand what I'm trying to say? So while praying through how to work through that, I had an encounter today which released me to make a prequel episode to that series, and then we're gonna do it like that. And so story time and shadow work. What is this story time? So today I had an encounter that led to a moment of shadow work. So what was that encounter? Okay. So as I said, it's time to wind down and get back into the flow, or just kind of ascend and get back into focus to get back into the flow of doing work or completing tasks. Not necessarily the balance of having fun and all the other things that I was doing last month, but really turn inward and evaluate. And so yesterday I went to the library with my classmate and I'm like, okay, I got to get this work done. And I thought I was going to finish the work yesterday, but I kind of, I had more time to finish it than yesterday, but I just wanted to get it done yesterday. However, I didn't get it done yesterday, and so I was planning out my today to do it. And I woke up early, as I usually do. I started working on it, but about 2 hours in, I got like a very strong feeling of anxiety or just uncalmness, right? Within my life over the last, maybe I'll say 9 months, right? And maybe even before. But I have acquired a high level of calmness. Like I just be calm. And compared to like maybe a couple years ago during final season, and I would like to point out that we're going into the fall season, or we're in it now, and people do acquire or get, or it springs up seasonal depression, right? And so I remember being in a space before where I just had this feeling of stress or anxiety. And for me, it's like in the middle of my forehead, and it's like that type of thing, right? So once I noticed that, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so I also remember feeling that feeling before and finding ways to avoid the feeling. What I know now that I didn't know before is that instead of avoiding the feeling, you should address the feeling, acknowledge the feeling, and accept the feeling. Let me write that down. Accept, address, acknowledge, and accept. And I might even want to say acknowledge, assess, and accept. Address, so I'll put accept, assess too. Right? Because you want to address that the feeling is there, or you want to acknowledge that the feeling is there. You want to address why it's there. You want to assess it as in to... Wait, is address and assess the same? I don't think. I think address, or maybe address and acknowledge is the same. Anyway, you want to acknowledge that it's there. You want to assess it to see how it's interrupting what you have going on. And then you want to accept it. Like, okay, I understand that this is why this is happening to me. So anyway, as I'm doing my work, I have a feeling of anxiety, we'll say, or stress. And first, I'm just like, whoa, what's happening right now? I understand that this is a stressful feeling. What do I need to do to get out of this feeling? So at first, I was just in like a let me get out of this and not avoid it, but like let me get out of it. So immediately, I lit some sage, I lit my incense, and I just kind of purified my home to kind of get that, whatever that energy was, and out. In addition to that, I did some yoga. A lot of inhaling, exhaling, right? Breathe in, breathe out, and release. Breathe in, breathe out, release. But I made sure when I did my breathe outs, my breath outs or whatever, I allowed it to be an audible sound. So some sounds were more boisterous than others, right? Whatever that pain was, or I don't want to say pain, but just whatever that pressure was inside of me, I wanted to make sure that I released it. So we got yoga, we got I did meditation with my deep breaths, I did spiritual baths, and I also did pleasure. You can use your imagination to figure out what that was. However, during my releasing or I said declarations, right? So while I'm breathing out, or however the sound came out, I'm like, I release anger. I release anxiety. And this is before I even really know what I'm feeling or why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. But I'm just trying to release all the negativity. So I release anger. I release anxiety. I release fear. I release hurt. I release self-sabotage. Why self-sabotage? Because I have to do homework right now. And I don't have time to be having anxiety because this paper is due. So whatever I'm feeling that's making me not want to do this, which I don't know what it is yet, I release it. So then I did that and I got into the shower. I took my spiritual bath. And there, as the water was cleansing me and, you know, my different herbs that I use, I started to be able to see why, or just not exactly why, because there was many reasons as to why, but I started to be able to go down the path of figuring out the things that were affecting me. One thing I would like to say is how I want to say this. I have had an experience where I was talking to a leader about feelings, and they said feelings aren't facts. And though I don't, in the connotation of which that was portrayed or expressed, I don't fully agree with it, that feelings aren't facts, but I will say feelings aren't facts, but they are indicators. So even if, I don't want to go there. We'll just say feelings are indicators. Feelings are blinking lights that let you know something is going on. So is that a fact or not? Hey, I won't say yes or no, but I will say that it is an indicator. So when I got the anxiety, one, I knew I needed to cleanse myself, but then as I dug deeper in realizing that feelings are indicators, I needed to know why, or what was the indication. What am I feeling? Why is this happening? And so let me see. Okay, I passed that. So why did I slip into the anxiety? Okay. Or the implications of, okay, yeah. Why did I slip into an anxiety, right? And so what I realized, or what I started to dig deep about, is what are the indications of me completing this task? Because I was just in a flow last month, and even though I had different things to do, I wasn't quite feeling the anxiety because I was prepared to do it, or I was ready to do it. But what about this? Or even if in moments that I wasn't, I was able to regain control over myself to complete the task. Not quite like this, because this was more intentional, right? Or, I'm working through it step by step. So what was the implication of doing my homework? This particular task, we had to create a syllabus letter. We had to create a partial syllabus, and an assignment sheet. One reason why I have been reluctant to do this is because, hey y'all, if you know, you know. One reason I have been reluctant to do this assignment is because I realized while I was thinking, right, the implications of doing this assignment. As I am a teacher now, you know what I'm saying? I do work with lesson plans, I do the syllabus, but I am on a elementary school level. And so doing this exercise for me was an implication of the more that is to come. And it's like, once you know, you're accountable for what you know. And maybe in addition to like being tired and just burnt out, one of the reasons why I was getting anxiety is because my subconscious could imagine or could ascertain the future that will come while doing this assignment, right? And not even thinking so big ahead, like, okay, right after I finish this assignment, I'm going to be a professor. No, it's not that. However, it is, you are responsible for the things that you know. And right after you finish this assignment, specifically, you're going to be closer to taking your comps, and then you're going to be closer to your dissertation, then you're going to be closer to graduation. So it's not the fact that I'm necessarily scared to do the assignment, but once this assignment is done, it unlocks the door to more work. Something else that I might be afraid of doing. You know what I'm saying? So I had to really dig into myself and see what it was. And so the moment that I shifted back into a higher consecrated self, in which I feel like is how I was when I was doing my other Lotus devotionals, and not saying it's a good thing or bad thing. Like I said, October, I was having fun. I was still, being my spiritual self, but my time and my priorities just had shifted elsewhere. But now I'm back. And I also think that being in this realm of creativity, as far as this show is concerned, helps me to be focused in my schoolwork, because it's a very narrow. Okay. So the moment I shifted back into my higher consecrated self is when I asked myself, why did I slip into anxiety while doing my homework? I realized that a part of it was the implications of doing my homework. On the one hand, why don't I want to do the syllabus? And I just explained, because it implies a level of responsibility in becoming my higher self, right? And then even as a teacher, and then on the other hand, why am I stalling? And is it because I'm realizing that completing this task will get me closer to my actual goal, right? Closer to graduation. And before, like when you on year 2, it's like you got so many classes to go. Like literally next semester is my last semester of classwork. So it's like, girl, why you getting stuck now? Don't get stuck now. You almost there. You almost to the promised land. But how many times do we get close to our goal and then we start self-sabotaging? And I didn't know I was doing that or even understand that that's why the pressure had happened until I really did those different steps to get out of that energy. Once I was out of that energy, I was able to address it and assess it and accept it. Address, accept, assess, and accept. There you go. Address, access, and accept. So, and I had to admit to myself that I get nervous when I think about my comprehensive exams. One, because it determines if you know what you know, and people have to be the judge of that, your teachers, right? And then 2, there is a time constraint and a page limit. And so another fear is it's already sometimes hard for me to focus to complete smaller tasks. And so now I have this very limited time, and I'm thinking in the future, now I will have this very limited time to do something, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to focus. So then again, now it takes me back to, okay, well, now, remember I said in the beginning, how am I feeling? Or what can I do to relieve this feeling? And it's cyclical. What can I do to relieve this feeling? How am I feeling? Wait, what can I do to relieve this feeling? How am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Okay. What can I do to relieve this feeling? How am I feeling? And why am I feeling this way? Then goes back to, and what can I do to relieve this feeling? So with that said, as it pertains to my comps, I just gotta practice writing, right? Like, that's an easy fix. Okay, so the moment that I faced myself and asked myself the why, I was able to be kind to myself and start to compose a solution. One of the things that I had to do too, as it pertains to doing my homework, was delete social media off of my phone. Now, me and social media have a interesting relationship, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes when I delete social media off my phone, it could just be for a couple hours, it could be for a day, it could be for months. It just depends on what's happening. But I had to make that first move because one reason why I'm distracted is because instead of for writing, I'm finding other people to compare myself to. And then when I feel like I'm not there, now I'm sad. But instead of for finding people to compare myself to, I could have been doing my work to actualize my own self. You see how that works? It's the accountability for me. Where we? And in this moment, after I went through that whole process, or while I was going through that process, I had realized, again, going back to my consecrated self, I already knew that it was time. I already knew it was coming. I just didn't know how. And I bought my groceries, my fruits and vegetables. My refrigerator is full. But again, you know, you kind of hesitant, or you coming out of a different type of flow and you going into a new one. So there's that pivot that you had to do. And so while all of this was happening, it was like I had a revelation, or I had the revelation again as to why detoxing my body was so important. And I think in the summer when I detoxed my body, it was for a specific reason, because I had to declog and, you know, just heal my body. I had to heal my body. And I wanted to see what it would do, what would happen if I did this particular step. And I saw what would happen. And so now that I know what will happen, it's time for me to go back to that place. So that's where we are now. And it was like, while I was having these revelations, I remembered the why it was important to detox. And when you're detoxing, one, you're healing your body. Two, you are preparing your physical vessel for the different outcomes that can happen. For an example, I do believe that one reason why I felt the anxiety as much as I did is because I have not been eating the way that I should. And not that I have not been vegetarian necessarily, but I've been eating a lot of processed foods, right? So then there's that sugar, all of those things. So it's like you trying to wean off of that, and your body is like, sis, what's going on? So I had a little glitch for a second, but I'm back now. And yeah, I'm excited about this process and getting back onto my track. But what I want to say about that too is, the lighter you are, the more you have the capacity to receive. Why did I say that? As I started to think even more, why do I have this pent-up pressure? I started to ask myself, okay, I had to do all this releasing, But why do I really have this pent up pressure? What's really going on? Because I realized too, even when I was doing my yoga and I was taking my deep breaths, I wasn't taking the deep breaths to the fullness or like the feeling as I know that I could. So let me try right now. Okay, that felt good. But it's like I wasn't able to take that deep breath as much as I could. Something was blocking it. And I had to ask myself. So there was a lot of questions, a lot of asking and answering, really searching and figuring out. And the thing is, you got to know what questions to ask. Here are the questions to ask. What can I do to get myself out of this feeling? How am I feeling? And why am I feeling this way? And sometimes it's word association, because once you start coming up with one answer, it'll remind you of something else. So another thing that this fear reminded me of the future, what is next, or after I pass this, what I will have to do, I also started to be like, well, why do I have this pent up pressure? And one thing I said was I need to search my heart. Now, on the synchronicity reading, I asked, who sits on the throne of your heart? Who or what? Right? When you're evaluating things, are you ruling with the iron fist, or are you being graceful, or are you being a mix, or whatever the case may be? Go listen to that episode. But I realized, or why is it, I had to ask, why is it that I'm afraid of what's next, or the responsibility, or the more, right? After I finish this and I do or it's time to do my dissertation, what is the fear of that? And then I guess I was asking my inner child, right? Why are you afraid to succeed? And what I told myself was, every time I succeeded before this moment, I wasn't honored or praised the way that I felt that I should by the people that I wanted to be praised or honored by the most. Who are these people? My father, my mother, my brother, my sisters, and then it goes to like leadership, right? My father, because my mother, because she passed away when I was younger. My brothers, because I would like to say they have their own, they're my peer, right? And because they're so much older than me, I look at them as fathers, and I want them to be to me something that they are not. So I have to honor the capacity in which they could give to me. And then my sister, the same way. And once I started realizing that, I had to hug myself like, dang, boo-boo. It's okay. I feel that for us. If you are feeling like you have not been loved the way that you feel like you deserve, or the way that you feel like you needed to, or the way that you feel like you should have, just hug yourself right now and tell yourself that it is okay. And this is a moment of healing. And this is the real shadow work. When you address those dark moments or those dark feelings of sadness, of grief, and you tell yourself that it is okay. You accept yourself. You address it, you assess it, and you accept it. It's not time to do away with it, right? Or to try to reverse it, but you accept it as, wow, this is a part of me, and this feeling or this thought or that memory makes up who I am. And that's that. So the lighter you are, the more you have the capacity to receive. So the more you forgive, the more you let things go, the more you will attract new things. Also, I've been stalling from my detox because I know the work and the preparation that it takes, right? As I was making my salad, it took me a minute because you got to cut everything up. Everything is fresh, da 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 da. And that's going to take preparation, but that's also going to get me back in the realm of focus that I need to be in, because it's like clockwork, right? You got it. And again, there are moments of fluidity and flexibility. However, the basis is structure, order, repetition. Okay. And instead of resisting it, when I first noticed my anxiety, instead of resisting it or avoiding it how I would have before, I welcomed it with open arms and took deep breaths while doing it. But again, right? And not again, because I didn't say this to y'all. But even when saying this declaration, instead of resisting it, I welcome it. It reminds me of the work that I have to do. Instead of resisting it, welcoming it with open arms, and I see it, even though I'm scared of it, I have to brace myself, right? I see you. It's like when a baby is about to jump on you. Like, you see it, and you like, okay, here's the math. Come on, I'm catching you. That's what you have to be like with yourself. And every time I had a new realization during this process today of why I felt how I felt, and then going through the steps of unfeeling that way, every time I had a new realization, I gave my gratitude and I said thanks. And then I even had a moment of conviction, because I realized, like, even in my waking life, I'm very gracious to people, very appreciative. I'm always like, oh, thank you so much for doing that, or I appreciate you, or, and I do that too, to kind of make moments soft and to really show my appreciation to people and allow them to know that I see them. And the conviction came today, even though I was giving gratitude off rip already. There's moments when I don't thank source, right? And all that means. So sometimes I don't pray before I eat. Sometimes I don't pray before I get in the shower. Sometimes I don't pray before I go to sleep. Sometimes I don't pray. Like, just different moments when I get into the house. Like, thank you, God, for letting me get home safely. Thank you for letting me make it to my car. Thank you for not letting, blah, 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 blah. Just moments of gratitude. So that's another key component I want to express. Gratitude. Because as you're grateful and thankful for what you have, that is the invitation for more. That means that you have room enough to receive, more room to receive. Okay. Lastly, I want to emphasize that during this day, during this moment, I didn't go outside of myself. And I wanted to find this scripture. And I should have looked. I always never know what this scripture is. Okay. I didn't go outside of myself to find the answers. I asked myself, and I closed my eyes, and I went into the deepest parts of my heart to figure out what it was. Now, again, after I did all of that, this is what I want to say too. My cycle is in tune with the moon. Shout out to who say that? It's a rapper. I think it's Lizzie Jeff. I don't know. I think I probably made that up. Or it could be Oshun. But I felt a little wonky today. So I'm like, let me just see what is happening right now. Like, what phase is the moon in? And I learned that today's moon phase is the waning gibbous. Let me see. Today's moon cycle. The waning gibbous is today. And so basically that means that the moon is starting to shrink. And when I say shrink, it just means that we just saw a full moon. That means it was fully lit. And now we're in between full moon and new moon. So basically, I guess it's like a half moon. And so I looked up what is the spiritual meaning of full moon. I mean, of waning gibbous. And you can look up this on Google. And it says that this time is a moment of introspection and like revitalizing your plans and your goals. And I can say today I really had to do that. But what really made me look at it too, because I know that my body was feeling a little wonky. And not to go into details, I will say my cycle was in tune with the moon. So I'm like, okay, what is my body literally telling me that is connected to universe? And also when I did my meditation and my yoga, I did a grounding yoga specifically. So my intention was like, universe, hold me. And I literally felt that I was becoming one with the earth. So when you do those things, I just use the moon as an example because it will lead us and guide us if we pay attention to the indications, right? Feelings that are indications. In conclusion, what did I say? Once I went through the process and the pain didn't necessarily go away. Like I said, cycle in tune with the moon. I'm still cramping right now. Okay? However, I was able to create a better relationship to it. Oh, in addition to my spiritual bath and all of that, I did drink some tea. Because I'm like, I need to regulate this. I drank some tea. So it was some peppermint tea, green tea, vanilla tea, and some elderberry, and some honey. That's what I had. But the pain didn't go away, but I just created a better relationship to it. I was accepting of it, and therefore I was able to finish my work. So I did finish my assignment. Shout out to my professor for hooking the sister up and extended the assignment. Okay. But here we are. It's done. Ashe and amen. I hope that you have grasped some tools of shadow work. Now, this episode was specifically for how to get through a moment right then and there. Now, as we progress and go through the other episodes or the other episodes of the series, we will talk about the process, like your whole process that takes longer than a day, or what is the process that I did to acquire these tools to do it within a day, right? So you have to go through the elongated process, and everybody's process might not be the same. I'm just telling you some tools that I did, but I really want to go through the how I got to that point so that you could figure out the tools that help you work through your trauma, your shadow work, your whatever. So again, thank you all for coming to another episode of Lotus Devotionals. If I miss anything, I will do a recap next episode. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace.